The night was alive with fire and fear. The air stung with smoke, and every breath carried the echo of destruction. Somewhere beyond the ruined village, the earth trembled, the deep, rhythmic growl of a tiger tank closing in. Each track crushed the soil like thunder. Corporal James Mallister, 24 years old, crouched in a shattered trench, mud soaking through his uniform. In his hands, a single roll of communication wire, cold and slick with oil. Around him, silence. His squad was gone. Only the machine remained. A flash of light from its search lamp cut through the haze, slicing across the broken walls and twisted helmets. James froze. His pulse pounded in his ears, louder than the tank itself. Fear clawed at his chest, but beneath it, his mind was already working, calculating, searching. He whispered to himself, almost a prayer, "There's always a way. There has to be." The tank's engine roared closer, the ground shaking like the heartbeat of a beast. James' eyes caught something half buried in the mud, a broken coil of wire glinting under the moonlight. His breath hitched. An idea, insane, desperate, brilliant, flickered to life. The fire reflected in his eyes as he looked up toward the rumbling silhouette. That night, he'd later say, his voice low and steady, "I learned something they never teach you in training, that sometimes a few inches of wire can stop a monster made of steel."
Before the chaos, before the battlefield swallowed everything, James Mallister was just an engineer with grease on his hands and quiet dreams in his head. He wasn't made for war. He was made for fixing things. Small, delicate machines that ticked, whirred, and obeyed reason. Back home in Manchester, he worked in a repair shop with his father, turning broken radios into music again. When the war began, James didn't enlist for glory. He enlisted because he believed he could make a difference, that his hands could save lives instead of taking them. He trained as a field engineer, learning to lay communication lines, repair engines under fire, and rebuild what others destroyed. But nothing could prepare him for the front lines of Europe, where logic crumbled under chaos. The first time he saw a Tiger tank, it didn't look like a machine. It looked like a god. Massive, invincible, its armor thick enough to shrug off shells like rain. His unit lost dozens trying to stop one. Every plan failed. Every weapon broke. It haunted James. The memory of those who ran, who screamed, who didn't make it back. Yet beneath the fear, something hardened in him, a quiet defiance. He began sketching ideas in the margins of his notebook, traps, circuits, small mechanical tricks that might even the odds. His sergeant laughed it off. "You can't outthink steel, Mallister." But James believed otherwise. He always did. So when the night came, when he found himself alone, armed with nothing but wire and desperation, that belief became his only weapon, because to him, every machine had a weakness. You just had to listen long enough to find it. The night was quieter than usual, too quiet for comfort. The wind had stopped moving, and the only sound left was the faint hum of engines somewhere beyond the fog. James Mallister crouched beside a broken field radio, his hands trembling as he adjusted the dials. Dead silence. The communication lines were cut. He was alone. Through the haze, a low rumble began, deep, metallic, and slow, the kind that made the earth shiver before your bones did. The tiger was on the move. He could feel it before he saw it, the vibrations crawling through the dirt, pulsing against his fingertips. James crawled to the edge of the trench and peered out. In the distance, a black shape emerged through the smoke, massive, unhurried, unstoppable. Its searchlight swept across the ruins, illuminating the skeletons of burned-out vehicles. He checked his gear. No rifle, no grenades, only a roll of communication wire, a pair of pliers, and a heart that refused to give up. The The tiger's turret turned, its barrel glinting under the faint moonlight. James ducked instinctively, mud splattering across his face. His mind raced. Think, Mallister. Think! He scanned the ground, and there it was. A line of broken telegraph posts, the remnants of a destroyed communication system. The wires still stretched along the mud, half buried and forgotten. His pulse quickened. The plan began to form, reckless, almost suicidal, but possible. He crawled toward the nearest post, keeping low, each movement deliberate. The sound of the tank grew louder, the grinding of its tracks chewing through the earth. Sparks flew as it rolled over metal debris. The beast was close now, too close. James's breath came in short bursts. His fingers worked fast, connecting the old wires, looping them through the mud, creating something that barely made sense. A trap born from instinct and desperation. And when he looked up again, the tiger was there, a shadow of death towering over him. All right then, let's see if steel can bleed. The tiger loomed closer, its massive shadow swallowing the moonlight. The roar of its engine was deafening now, shaking the air around him. James Mallister pressed himself into the mud, heart pounding so hard he thought it might give him away. The ground vibrated with every turn of the treads. The monster was almost on top of him. He closed his eyes for a second, just one, and felt the fear surge through him like cold water. Faces flashed before him. His father at the workbench, his squad laughing during rations, his mother waving him off at the train station, all the people who believed he'd come back. But right now, it didn't feel like he would. A shell exploded somewhere behind him, lighting up the night for a heartbeat. James flinched, covering his head, his body trembling uncontrollably. The heat, the shockwave, the smell of burning metal, it was too much. His breath came fast and shallow, and the world blurred at the edges. He wanted to move, but his muscles refused. Fear had taken over, the kind that doesn't scream, it paralyzes. For the first time, he wasn't sure if courage even mattered anymore. What good was courage against something built to kill hope itself? The tiger stopped moving. The air grew still. He could hear the faint ticking of its engine cooling, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Then came the sound of gears shifting, slow, deliberate. The turret was turning, searching for him. He pressed his face into the dirt, praying it would pass, but deep down a darker thought crept in. Maybe it was all for nothing. Maybe no one would ever know what he tried to do here. The hopelessness dug deep, hollowing out the part of him that still believed he could win. And then, something changed. In the silence between his heartbeats, he felt it. Not courage, not faith, but anger. A quiet, burning anger at the machine, at the war, at the idea that he was just another name to be buried in the mud. No, he whispered into the earth. Not like this. The silence didn't last. The tiger's engine roared again, gears grinding as it shifted direction. James Mallister lifted his head slowly, his breath fogging the cold air. The machine's shadow moved past him, only meters away now, too close for comfort, too close for doubt. His heart hammered, but this time it wasn't fear driving him, it was resolve. He reached for the coil of wire, hands steady now, fingers moving with purpose. The plan he'd pieced together in panic began to take shape, an improvised trap built from a soldier's instinct and an engineer's mind. He traced the wire through the mud, wrapping it around a half-buried shell casing, looping it toward the broken telegraph post. His mind worked fast, recalling voltage, tension, metal conductivity, everything his father ever taught him about circuits. The tank paused. Its turret swept across the trench, the light slicing through the smoke. James ducked low, heartbeat sinking with the grinding gears. He could feel the vibration through the earth, the sheer power of the thing he was about to challenge. The absurdity almost made him smile. "You can't outthink steel, Mallister," his sergeant's voice echoed in his mind. He almost laughed. "Watch me," he muttered under his breath. He jammed the final loop of wire into place and tightened it with his pliers. The setup was primitive, but it might just work. If he could time it perfectly, one chance, one strike, he could force the monster to stop, maybe even cripple it. He wiped the mud from his face, smearing it into dark streaks. The searchlight was coming back around, bright and hungry. He held his breath, waiting for that single second where everything would align. And then he moved. With one sharp motion, he connected the wire's end to the exposed circuit on the shell, sending a jolt of current sparking through the line. The light flared. The machine roared. "Come on," he whispered. "Take the bait." The world erupted in sound and fury. Sparks burst along the mud-soaked ground as James's improvised circuit came alive. The Tiger's metal frame shuddered. A scream of grinding gears and straining steel. The trap had caught. For a heartbeat, the battlefield froze. James didn't breathe. The Tiger roared again, louder this time, as its treads locked in place. Smoke hissed from the rear exhaust. A sudden burst of flame lit the darkness, and for the first time, the unstoppable machine hesitated. James didn't wait. He ran, mud splashing, heart hammering, hauling the second coil of wire toward a nearest wreck. He ducked behind a shattered Jeep and ripped open its power cell, sparks jumping across his gloves. The heat singed his skin, but he didn't stop. Every second mattered. Every heartbeat was a countdown. The Tiger's searchlight swept across the trench again, cutting through smoke and fire. It stopped inches from his hiding spot. The light lingered, burning into his retinas. He froze, eyes wide, breath caught. The turret shifted, metal groaning. It had seen him. A shell ripped through the Jeep, sending shards of steel whistling through the air. The blast threw James into the dirt, pain exploding in his ribs. His ears rang. The world spun. But through the ringing, through the chaos, he saw the glowing wire, still connected, still alive. He crawled forward, dragging himself through the mud, blood mixing with rain and soil. Every muscle screamed, but his mind was focused. One target, one chance. He grabbed the wire, clenched it tight, and yanked it into the final contact point. A blinding flash. A thunderclap of electricity. The tank's front armor buckled as internal sparks danced like lightning inside the beast. The engine coughed, roared, then fell silent. The sound was replaced by the faint whine of metal cooling, ticking like a dying heart. He stared at it, disbelief mixing with exhaustion. His trembling hand reached out, brushing the muddy wire that had ended it all. "You were right, Sergeant," he whispered, a faint smile cutting through the dirt on his face. "You can't outthink steel unless you built it yourself." Silence settled over the battlefield like a shroud. The Tiger tank, once a roaring titan of steel, now lay still, its massive frame half submerged in mud and smoke. The only sound left was the faint ticking of its cooling metal and the slow, uneven rhythm of James Mallister's breathing. He sat there for a long moment, staring at what he had done. The wire still glowed faintly beside him, the faint smell of ozone hanging heavy in the air. His hands trembled, coated in mud and blood, his knuckles raw from the fight. He didn't feel like a hero, just empty. All around him, the night was alive with distant echoes, gunfire far away, the cries of the wounded carried by the wind. But here, in this small pocket of ruin, there was only quiet. James pushed himself up, wincing as pain flared through his side. He limped toward the tank, each step slow and deliberate. The closer he got, the more surreal it felt. The beast that had crushed entire platoons, that had made men run and hide, was now nothing more than a broken shell. He rested his hand on the cool metal, feeling its weight even in death. The machine didn't look invincible anymore. It just looked sad. A flicker of movement caught his eye, the morning wind stirring the wire loop that had changed everything. He bent down and picked it up, twisting it gently between his fingers. It was just a simple piece of wire, fragile, ordinary, unremarkable. Yet it had done what bullets and bombs could not. He exhaled slowly, the adrenaline finally fading, replaced by exhaustion and disbelief. His eyes burned, but he couldn't tell if it was from the smoke or the tears threatening to fall. "Guess you found your weakness," he muttered softly, looking at the lifeless machine. The dawn began to break through the fog, painting the wreck in a faint golden light. For the first time in hours, James felt warmth on his skin. He wasn't sure if it was victory, but it was survival. And for now, that was enough.